This is Sacred Harmony, hosted by Anya. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of faith, resilience, and conscious creation. Our guest didn't just study manifestation, he lived it, trusting soul prosperity over external certainty. This episode explores what happens when inner light alignment becomes the true engine of miracles, wealth, and purpose. Welcome to the show, Philip. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you, Anya. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Philip, you have lived for years purely on manifestation. What shifted inside you before anything shifted outside?
That's an insightful question, and that's exactly the key to manifestation. It comes from within. Um, so basically, I hit my rock bottom around 22 years old, 23 years old. Uh, Life kind of fell apart. I reached out to find my birth mother, who I had never met, and she had just passed away, and my identity got stolen, and a whole bunch of thousands of dollars got racked up on my credit. Um, Broke up with a girl I thought I was going to marry, so I was just in a rough place, and just kind of gave up on life, and on not on life, like not that I was gonna take my own life, but I gave up on really trying or striving for anything. I was very driven and motivated before, but I just kind of stopped trying and gave up in my own strength. And when you give up in your own strength, you realize there's something greater out there. And for me, I had an encounter with God, and I had this divine experience where I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw this billboard, as real as like I could reach out and touch it. It was like as real as anything. And it was a verse that said, "If any of you in this world think himself to be wise, let him become a fool that he may become wise." And that just was an instant download of volumes of information that made me realize that I was doing this my own way, according to my own logic, my own, conditioning. And there's a much greater, better, more efficient, higher spiritual way out there. And so it's a long story, but one thing led to another, and I just gave my life over to studying spiritual principles and seeking God and the divine, and seeing how I could better myself from within first, because from our heart flow the issues of life. Everything we do, everything we manifest, all our behavior and our decisions come from our mind and our heart. So when we integrate and clean up our internal operating system, then our external reality follows suit beautifully. But if we have a lot of struggles within, without, the more efficient, the more in tune, the more aligned and regulated we are within, the more our reality reflects that. And it's a really fun, beautiful way to live, but it does take a lot of inner work. And so that was the catalyst to my transformation.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you think manifestation fails when the soul isn't ready to hold what's being asked for?
So people have a lot of different understandings of manifestation, and there's not like a right or wrong way to manifest. Everybody's manifesting all day, every day. When you write a that's a manifestation. If you make a sandwich for lunch, that's manifestation. But to get to the higher realms of like that miraculous manifestation where it seems like you didn't really do anything, that requires a lot of internal alignment and heart and brain alignment. Because we live in this electrical system. We are highly electrical beings, and the more you become, the more electrical you become, the less physical, mechanical work you need to do. You can think of it like, you see it with the transition from gas cars to electric vehicles. So electric vehicles are a lot more efficient. They have less moving parts. They're more powerful. There's more torque. They whole different technology than gas vehicles, right? And so we ourselves, our biological systems are spiritual technology, and we can move from becoming more mechanical to more electrical. And so the best way to do that is aligning our hearts with our intent. So when we're living our passion, when you're in your lane doing what you absolutely love to do and you're fully in, you're fully present, your heart's flowing so strongly because you love what you're doing. You have that excitement, you have a reason to get up in the morning, and that's contagious and that's powerful. Um, so when you're living from that place, your heart's putting out a very strong, powerful electromagnetic signal that is actually attracting all the things you need to accomplish your goal. But if you have struggles in your mind or you don't feel totally aligned with what you're doing, whether it's societal conditioning or you've had a failure in the past, it creates this friction within you that you're doing one thing, but you feel like you shouldn't, or you feel like your perfect alignment. That creates friction and resistance within the system that inhibits manifestation. So our body is really a tool, a technology of manifestation. And the better we learn to recognize and discern our body and integrate all the different parts, the more miraculous these manifestations will unfold.
Yeah, and that also suggests that manifestation isn't about desire alone, but internal capacity, a challenging idea for hustle driven cultures.
Yes. So you mentioned the term internal capacity, and that's a very important and beautiful term because, as I mentioned, we are highly electrical beings. So the more capacity we have, and think of it in terms of electrical, like a battery or a circuitry, the more capacity we have, the more electric potential we can send out into the world. And think so you can think of it as like a Wi-Fi router or a cell phone, right? You don't see the signals that are being put out into the ether, but there is this invisible infrastructure where signals are constantly being exchanged and sent out and received. And that's how when you get into the higher levels of manifestation, that's how it works. When you go from mechanical to electrical, we're sending out these signals. So the hustle culture is all about, hustling and grinding and hard work. And that's extremely effective. People get a lot done that way. And there's nothing, necessarily wrong with it, but there's a price to pay. Everything we do, there's it requires certain, so that lifestyle is gonna eventually take its toll on your health and on your well-being and leads to burnout. But when you operate from more of a place of resonance and peace and knowing exactly what you want and first believing that it's possible, that you can operate on a higher level and you can manifest things a lot easier than you thought you could. You move from, maybe 100% hustle to 90% hustle and realizing that there's easier ways. And some of it's just, simple techniques or strategies or wisdom or systems that will optimize your business or your life or whatnot. But then, so you go from hustle 100% to 90% to 60% to 50% through all these different strategies and techniques. And there's a lot of people teaching stuff, business strategies, um, uh, not even not even manifestation miraculous zone type stuff. But once you start implementing and integrating your physiology into this with your thoughts and intention and breath work and amplifying your nervous system, because there's a lot of talk these days about regulating your nervous system, which is extremely important and very powerful. But once it's regulated, you can get to a point of amplifying it where you're sending out even stronger signals. And then that's where the miracles really start happening, where you move from hustle into just ease and flow and everything's working together for your good. And you go from struggle to just it's just every day's fun because something's gonna come your way. You don't know exactly what, but you know that you have all these seeds sown in the ground and you have a harvest at your fingertips all the time. from these signals that you've put out, and you just sit waiting in anticipation, and it's always fun. It makes life just like a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And you built financial success, yet felt unfulfilled. What did money reveal and what did it fail to give up?
Yes, money is a revelation of our heart. So money will just amplify the person we already are. Um, so I lived for 5 years completely pure manifestation, and it was so fun. It was so magical. I was just seeing all these amazing things while supporting a family, 3 children and a wife. And then so I took, but I wasn't making crazy money, but I was living on just pure manifestation. So I decided to start a business, and I started an asset recovery business, and I use these principles and work in business. And I built a part-time six-figure business in asset recovery, so I could still be very, live a flexible lifestyle and be very present for my family. And it was, but it wasn't fulfilling in the way that living that life of manifestation was. Because when I was in those 5 years, lived completely by inspiration, and I would go out and help people anytime. I would spend hours playing music. I'm a musician. I would do all these was led by my heart, and I would see the unfolding of that. And then COVID happened, and I ran into some struggles, and my family had health issues. My wife's family. It was a whole new level of learning emotional regulation for me. It was a whole new test and challenge. And so once I got past that, then I started building this business, and I saw kind of the magic return and all these miracles happening. And you know, one of my first clients I booked was through I audit county records, and I was searching people who were owed money from the county government, and it happened to be somebody that my brother-in-law actually knew. So when I contacted him, I said, "Hey, I'm so and so's brother-in-law," and so we had instant. That's part of this catalyst manifestation. A catalyst lowers the activation energy that's required for a reaction. So I had instant rapport with this gentleman, um, sell or convince or whatnot, and end up for 2 contracts. It was a $380,000 contract, and I made $63,000 off of that. And so that was a nice payday that just came through that synergy, that ease, that flow. And so I realized, um, to answer your question, money is a tool for us to live, but if we're seeking money, we're gonna eventually uh, lose out on our heart and compromise our heart flow. So it helped me reset. What I love is spirituality. I love, living in this metaphysical world where we can create anything we want and see miracles unfold. And so that's what I really love. That's where my people unlock that. And so I still run the asset recovery business, and I have actually my family, my 19-year-old nephew, and a virtual that I manage and oversee it. But now I'm coaching people to activate them into their own innate potential and unlock miracles in their life so they can just see the wonder and the blessing and the prosperity unfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And how can listeners tell the difference between success that feeds the ego and success that feeds the soul?
That's a good question. It'll come down to inner peace, which is different for everybody. Like what gives me peace, my level, my baseline of peace and reality is going to be very different from you. What gives me joy is going to be very different from you. But having that solid foundation where you know that everything's working together for your good, that you're safe, that you're secure, that this prosperity is amplifying who I already am. It's not changing me to be into somebody who the world says I should be, or my family says I should be, or this or that. Um, it's being real authentic self, and that comes first from knowing yourself. So a lot of my inner work was dealing with a lot of trauma and meditation and prayer and fasting, and I became intimately aware of my own personal internal operating system. I found out what makes me tick. I found out my strengths, my weaknesses, my demons, all these things. Um, because whatever you do externally should be an outflow of your internal. And when you have that peace within, everything externally is going to reflect that, and it's going to amplify that. And it creates this symbiotic synergy cycle that just makes life better and better and better. So if you feel like you're digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole and life is just getting more and more difficult, then that's you trying to chase external prosperity without having that internal peace. But when you know that everything is good within, and then it starts unfolding without, and that can take patience, because once you find that place, um, real faith, real manifestation, real spirituality is reflected by patience. And you don't force a miracle. You don't force a manifestation when you get in miracle zone. You relax into it. You relax your nervous system. You trust that it's all working together for your good, and you have that assurance, that unwavering peace that it's all unfolding beautifully. This is unfolding perfectly, and I just go about my path and enjoy every moment.
Yeah, and that distinction reframes wealth not as an outcome but as a mirror.
Yes, so wealth is and money is a reward for walking our path and our purpose. A lot of people create a path to chase money, to chase wealth, to chase that prosperity. But when you prosperity within, when you know that you're conditionally loved, when you know that everything's working together for your good, when you perfect peace within, then you create your own path. You blaze your own trail because you are a amazing, beautiful individual, and there's nobody in this world that's like you. And so you're going to create a path that nobody else has blazed before. You're going to walk your own trail. You're going to create your own reality based on what's within you. So it's important to know what's within you and to have that internal. Then the universe will reward that. You'll see that reflected in every aspect, in your relationships, in your health, in your business, in your finances. Your external reality will be a exact picture of what's going on within you. So do the inner work first. Focus on that internal piece. Do whatever it takes to work through those traumas, through those, the friction and resistance that life has brought you, and take that as an opportunity to expand and to know yourself and to become intimately aware of who you are. And then everything will unfold beautifully as you do.
Yeah, 100%. And you speak about engineering miracles. Some might say miracles should be spontaneous, not designed. How do you respond to that?
So you can see this throughout history, in science. Um, like for example, the first time a light bulb lit up, people thought that was magical or witchcraft, or you know, they had no understanding because there was no teaching, there was no infrastructure understanding of how that science works, of how electricity and all that. For the average person, people saw that as, miraculous. Um, but we know now that there's a very real pragmatic science to how electrons flow, how electricity moves. There's We can graph it out, we can manipulate it, we can predict it, and we use electricity throughout society to make this world an amazing place. The same thing is true with miraculous manifestation. So miracles, what most people call a miracle is just something that they don't understand how it works. If somebody from the 18th century saw the technology we had today, they would call it miracles. We just think of our cell phone as modern everyday. So miraculous manifestation comes again from like that Wi-Fi idea where our hearts are sending out this electromagnetic signal and we're constantly interfacing with everything in the world. And when you know that you are sending out a clear, resonant, coherent signal for what you want, you create this magnetic attraction. And it there's a lot of science behind it, but that's exactly it, scientific, and more proving in the quantum field of how our very intention and attention affects our 3D reality. And so the more you become aware of yourself and the more you learn how to interface with the electromagnetic field around you and with people, then the more you can intentionally plant seeds in that field, in the electromagnetic field, and know that those produce an effect. We plant a seed in the ground, a little tiny, tiny seed that grows into a massive tree and produces, so much fruit. That would seem like a miracle. I mean, that's a miraculous process. We're so used to it now because we hear about it all the time that it's just become normal. So miracles can become normal in your life when you learn how your biology, your physiology, your intention, and the energy within and without all integrate and work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So, manifestation isn't about forcing outcomes, it's about becoming congruent with what you're asking for. If this conversation stirred something within you, take one intentional step today towards soul alignment. Because when inner prosperity leads, miracles don't feel rare, they feel natural.